Let's get behind the Mortis. I'm Devin McCamey, author and director for Mortis Maledictum.
And I'm John Capers, the producer. In this show, we give you an exclusive look at the lore, inspiration, and making of our show.
Yes, in this particular edition, we're going to take a look inside Episode 2, Mountain Words. Joining us today is a guy that we picked up and threw in a van to come help talk to us about Mortis Maledictum today. Your name's Justin, right?
Hi, I'm Justin, and I like talking about witches, specifically the Grecian variety.
Well, welcome, Justin. Thank you for joining us today.
We're glad to have you. Justin. How long have you been listening to the show?
I've been listening since as long as I've heard about it, so we're definitely excited to be a part of this episode in particular. This is definitely one of my favorite episodes and one I wanted to talk about in particular.
Awesome. Well, then let's go ahead and kick things off with talking about our unfortunate protagonists.
Yes, so we've got Rachel and Bobby in this one, and unfortunate is a rather appropriate word for it, isn't it? They have a bit of a rough go. I mean, so did Jack, but these two really went out looking for an adventure, and I mean, they got it. That's for sure. Justin, what did you think about kind of the build-up with introducing Rachel and Bobby, and like from a listener perspective?
From a listener perspective, Rachel and Bobby feel like two people that I could meet in everyday life. Like they are the guys at Costco that are going through the trail mix aisle. Like they're everyday bubbas that I could know and love. That could be a part of my friend group.
Yeah, with Patagonia walking sticks.
Exactly.
They shop at Bass Pro Shop. Not a sponsor.
So where do you get those kind of names from? Do you specifically choose more average Joe names with your characters to try to give you that sense of like, these could be my friends?
Sometimes. So like if the goal is to make it be a character that is memorable in an every person kind of way, where they're like, yes, it could be my brother, my sister, my husband, my wife, or whatever. Absolutely, I kind of do stuff like that. And I go through and usually I cheat and I ask my wife. And she goes, oh, well, have you thought of this name or this name or this name? And I'm like, those are all freaking great. Why didn't I think of those? If it's something that's a little more of a permanent character, poignant character that's got to kind of stick out or be recurring or something like that, I put a lot more thought into it. But usually I want something that has the kind of the right cadence for audio, right? Like with episode 4, we've got Quinn O'Connell. That one really rolls off the tongue really nicely, right? Rachel and Bobby together rolls off the tongue very nicely. So that's kind of where they came from.
Even if they don't get to be said together a lot anymore.
That is true. Wah, wah. Exactly.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to the episode yet, oh crap, go listen to the episode. For sure.
Probably need to put something at the top, actually.
Yeah. Spoiler brackets. We're going to talk about things that happen at the end of the episode, guys.
This is the behind the scenes of the episode that you haven't listened to.
So you mentioned sound design, right? Things that kind of flow off of the tongue and roll well together.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we have a very interesting soundscape, I think. The story starting off with this kind of more serene and positive experience between these two people and, their adventurous ways, and the musical and sound effects aspect of this, I think, really helped to set that particular atmosphere. And then you listen to that transition as they, are now in Greece, they're on Mount Parnassus, and that whole setting shift. Talk a little bit about how that setting shift adjusts the soundscape as they are up on the mount, and that whole scene starts to take a dark twist.
Sure. So, unfortunately, I am nowhere near as skilled as Lawrence at not only doing it, but even explaining it. Wish we could get him on here right now, but time zones being what they are, maybe in a few episodes we can get something. But I actually did the soundscape for this one. Lawrence was unavailable. He was moving from one apartment to the next. So he was unavailable during this period. So it was me trying my best to get a good soundscape together for this. So it was nowhere near as subtle and well refined as something that Lawrence would put together. So I'm glad that people are liking it. I was doing my best to try to have the themes of any given scene portrayed in the music itself. And so the transitions felt probably a little jarring because the scenes themselves started off and had a sort of transitionary period, but the music I wanted to kind of have like a lead in, so you almost knew what was about to happen or how dense it was going to be beforehand. Like before the words came out of the narrator JJ's mouth, I wanted the listener to kind of like, oh no, this is going to be a tense scene or the whatever, right?
I think that was particularly well done in this episode because there is, I'm going to say, a defined shift moment. Like I think that there is like a few paragraphs that you could look at and say like, this is where the story changes, and the tone change is not so subtle. You're not going through the gradient hues. You are going from green to red immediately. I think the sound really helps go from that pastoral setting that I'm on an adventure with my friends to I don't know if I'm going to get out of this alive. Putting yourself in that experience, the sound really helped me as a listener go through that with the characters.
Awesome. Well, I'm really glad to have that feedback. That's fantastic. I'm glad it had the desired effect. It was very much kind of a shooting in the dark at that point with me, because I was like, I need Lawrence. Where are you? Come back. Stop moving your apartment. I know it's important, but be homeless for 5 minutes and come help me. So I'm won the lottery on that one. Thank you. If you liked that kind of thing, the transition is also kind of has the same feel in episode 4, Dangerous Tongues, from scene 1 to 2, and then from 2 to 3. After that, it becomes a little more subtle because it's more just a ratcheting up of tension at that point. The actual thematic, atmospheric feel to it is very different in the first couple scenes of that particular chapter as well, or episode.
Yeah. You have any other questions in mind,
Burning
Justin?
questions.
Yes. So I talked about pastoral setting a little bit ago. For settings, I'm gonna ask just for this episode, why Greece? I think that the story and the plot, I think you could have shotgunned at a dartboard and or shotgunned at a map and found a lot of places where you could have had a very similar story. So why Greece for this one? And then follow up, what's more important to you when you're writing, the setting or the plot around it?
Ooh, that's a spicy question. Okay, we got to pull easier people out of into our van whenever we come get people to come on the show. That's a big honker. So stop me if I go wild on this one, because setting is a huge deal to me actually. When I'm writing, especially when I wrote this episode in particular, I wanted the setting to be its own character, right? So Dan Brown does this a lot, and I've kind of taken his masterclass to heart about it a little bit. Like the setting itself, every time you have a scene, the setting should bleed into it and should have effect of it. If it's just the backdrop for the action that is happening, well, then you could have that happen in an empty office building, right? I don't want that to be part of it. I want the actual backdrop, the scene, to have a say in what's going on. So like the river that they're on and the mountain path that they're on and the grass that hid the needle that punctured Bobby's palm and all that stuff, other things, that's the setting having its say into it. And so I really kind of wanted that to be a major part of it too, because it's not just them two by themselves in a square white room. You know, it's they're in a place, and that place is having effects as well on them. And I guess the other part of it is, in this particular one, why Greece? To answer your first part of your question, I did that totally backwards. But why Greece? So I wanted to go with the whole Oracle theme, but also I knew that I was about to go do Insults and Power. And I actually wrote these out of order. So Insults and Power is episode 5, and that one's all about Comaldika in Alexandria. And it's about Egyptian gods versus Roman gods. And so I was like, I can't just skip over Greece. Come on. So I was like, okay, I got to have something for people that love the Greek mythology and stuff in there. So I threw that in there. I wrote this one while I was outlining that one, so it was completely out of order. This was back in the days before I decided that they were all going to be tied together. It's actually an interesting thing. This is like the first time I started to add puzzles to the show and to the story, and I did it in such a way that I was like, okay, I'm going to walk myself into a corner here and give a prophecy that forces me to then fulfill that prophecy later, right? And so I needed some type of oracle thing to go with it, so that's where it came to Pythia.
Have you yourself actually ever been to Greece? What is your research process on places that you've maybe never been to? Is it something that you have to deep dive on the internet and just try your best, or have you actually been to some of the places that you write about?
So not in this case. I've never been to Greece itself, so I did an insane amount of research. If I at all can, I will go to a place that I'm about to write about. Rumbling Deeps from a couple episodes ago was based around a cave system in Kentucky that I absolutely had gone and explored. I also went and explored a whole bunch of cave systems in southern Arizona, which allowed me to basically have free reign. They weren't guided tours or anything. There was abandoned mines that I got to run through and do recordings of sounds. So some of the sounds in Rumbling Deeps actually are me running around in Arizona by myself in a cave. But I will go to the place as much as I can to get a good feel on what's going to happen for it. I did not get to go to Greece, so it required a lot more research than some of the other ones where it's been somewhere I went to. So I had to really dive deep. Got into a lot of scholarly and historical articles and things like that. Luckily, I was in the middle of my bachelor's at the time, so I was able to utilize a university library to to do a lot of the research that I couldn't get just on Google searching.
Very interesting. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about the puzzles a minute ago, talking about this being the first episode that you really kind of played with that idea.
Yeah,
so,
bum, bum, bum.
You're right. So bring it out for us. Let the listeners know. So what are those hidden puzzles in Mountain Words of Parnassus?
Oh, no. Okay. Well, I guess I should say, Justin, what do you think the puzzles were in Mountain Words of Parnassus?
I definitely felt a little bit of I'm going to say a little bit of a callback in the prophecy to even the first episode. Mm-hmm.
That's good. That was there.
Okay, good. I felt that in a way, but I don't know if I've delved deep enough into Mortis to give an answer beyond that.
Sure. Okay. So that's completely expected at this point, right? So this episode was very, very light touch on the puzzles as the introduction to them. It was basically that prophecy and some of the other things that came up in it, right? About how talking about Pythia and these plague maidens exist and that they spout prophecy every so often, which means that there's something that kind of this thread that moves through the world, and it's not just everything's up to its own chance, but it's also not 100% guided by fate either. It's kind of this in-between thing. And the plague maidens of Mount Parnassus here are the ones that are kind of getting a peek behind the curtain, so it kind of sets up that there is a world behind the world, and so that is essentially gives you a little framework to what the puzzles would be. Also, in the first episode, Teeth in the Waves, there is a anagram written in the metadata in the show description. And if you solve that, it has a riddle after the anagram. If you solve the anagram into a riddle and then solve the riddle, it takes you to a place with a whole bunch of free artwork for the show. That's a hidden puzzle that's in there. We've got some more in several different of the episodes, so check the show description, hint, hint, wink, wink. We've got stuff like that in there too. So not just in the show, but outside the show.
You called them the plague witches, or say that one more
Plague
time?
Maidens of Mount Parnassus. This is the original title of the episode, actually.
Okay, because that is the sickest punk rock name I have ever heard. I'm naming my next band that.
That's great. Yeah, I originally called it that because I didn't have a good title for it, and I was like, Brandon, come up with a title for this, and he's like, I'm not good at this. I'm a hermit. People are weird. I don't like doing not painty things. And I was like, just do it. And he was like, okay, fine. And he threw it out, Mountain Words. And I was like, well, they do have words, and they are on a mountain, and it is adequately not just spooky, but curiosity inducing, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it was a solid title too, not just punk rock bandy.
more folky at that point,
and more concise too. Yeah.
So Justin, what did you think about the prophecy in Mountain Words? What were your kind of takeaways from that? What is it foretelling?
The storms of flaying wind are coming. The words lost and minds gained are here. The bastion has gone. and the malicious come to gather their strength.
Yes.
You write words good there, Mr. Devin.
So each phrase is just kind of a tease, but the important part was to like let you know that it's a tease by the first phrase of it being something that happened in the previous episode.
I enjoy the kind of what feels like open interpretability of the prophecy. The storms of the flying wind are coming. That feels like that callback into Teeth in the Waves. That to me was the first hint that like these are not just independent short stories. These are part of a collective. We're seeing a bigger plot growing. The words lost and minds gained are here. Throws me a little bit into the Mountain Words episode. Almost Rachel's transition of not being able to speak, and then suddenly being able to speak in prophecy.
Yeah, so that one actually is really interesting. It is both Mountain Words and Dangerous Tongues, episode 4, comboed in that same phrase.
I think there's even a little bit of a nod to. You'll notice through the show, there's this theme. Words are powerful. Words can accomplish a lot.
Massive hint right there.
Words mean things.
Yes, they do.
Thanks, Aaron Sorkin. The Bastion has gone, and the malicious come to gather their strength. Just coming from a Christian background, that feels very, very heaven and hell. Fight beyond our human means and in the supernatural.
Yes, quite cosmic.
Love the idea of a foreshadowing of bigger stories to be told outside of just a really unlucky hiking experience.
It was still very unlucky hiking experience. Rachel and Bobby will never be going back to that because Rachel doesn't remember who she is, and Bobby gone.
Well, yeah, okay, so you bring up an interesting point there, right? With Rachel, does she know who she is? You just said no, she doesn't.
Oh no,
so.
she's lights are on, nobody's home. She's been completely transformed in one of these plague maidens now. It's Rachel gone.
So what does that transformation look like? What's happening to them during that time? We kind of hear some of that described to us in the episode, but kind of behind the curtain, what's happening to Rachel? So
it's choice with this idea and this theory about corruption, which you get a lot more of as things go on. I think honestly, this is the first. I mean, this is only episode 2, so it would make sense that it's like the first time that it's really been toyed with per se in this environment. But we'll get lots of other episodes later and farther along where it's like corruption not only hurts the thing that you were, but it's a transformative effect and it can turn you into something else. Like, I mean, like, this is spoilery again because we're on episode 2, but like Quinn's transformation is very palpable throughout his journey. We've got transformations of our wonderful family of Pestilence, and if you haven't read that one yet in Herald Obsession, that is a massive transformation. We got Linhart and the Rotted Crown. Like, all these people are being corrupted by these supernatural powers that are beyond their even comprehension, but it's not always corrupting them in a bad way, right? You've got Alea and Duchess Anna in The Bone Duchess, and it corrupts her in what was a bad way, but she turns it around a little bit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, she's able to at least get it more stable and more neutral. So it's a transformative nature to it.
Okay. So corruption is kind of a loose word here because if it can mean positive or negative, right? So we're not talking about like, corruption, I used my family connections to get a job.
Yay, nepotism.
Yay, right? No, it's deeper than that, and it's
corrupting what you were, but not necessarily in a bad way.
Yeah,
sometimes,
more cosmic.
Absolutely more cosmic, way outside of your control, and usually it has something to do with interacting with an artifact or something that mere mortals are not supposed to come in contact with. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about that connection that Rachel had in this story. Okay.
So, as we know, since we've all listened to this right, listener?
It did.
Not here for the spoilers before the episode. You don't get your dessert before your dinner.
I'm pretty sure this episode is longer than the episode. the Behind the Mortis is thick as compared to the actual episode.
Yeah, he a thick boy.
It's all right. We're having fun. Hopefully, you listeners are also having fun. Not just us over here grinning like fools at each other.
But going back to the question of Rachel and her transformation, right? So obviously she drinks the concoction. Little blood, little something else going on there. So let's talk a little bit about what she went through and what was this more cosmic experience that she had.
Okay. I am actually going to say something here that the VAs themselves do not know.
Bum, bum, bum.
I know this is like 2 years late, 3 years later now. Jeez, it's been a long time. Yeah, 3 years later, the VAs don't even know this. It's because she came in contact with something that had itself become an artifact, had been imbued over time and energy being put into it that changed it. And it was the rocks, the stones that made up the room that they were in. The bowl, it was made from the same material as a stone bowl, right? And the wood bowl too, right? They were all made up of the same thing, and they were made up from things grown and found on the mountain. And this mountain in Greek mythology is the place where where Python gets killed, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what makes it was poisonous, venomous snake. That's why the river was called Pythia back then, I think it was. That's why we're talking about Pythia altogether. That's where the word Python comes from. And because it all happened by the Greek gods came and they were like, we got to kill this snake, and sent a god to go off and say, hey, go kill this snake, Apollo. Apollo went and killed the snake. All of the Pythian oracles, Oracle of Pythia, that's what it is, then worshipped Apollo for ridding them of the snake, and in turn they got these prophetic visions. Well, it's because part of that venom from that snake seeped into the ground, and the mountain itself is the artifact. So the setting itself is the thing that was making this more interesting and worse off for Rachel in a long way.
Corrupted with cosmic energy.
Yes. By a gigantic snake corpse.
I love that callback to how important the setting is, because now you've made it that in making it so that really the setting is not just the where we are, but it can also be the villain.
Yes, absolutely.
It is the antagonist. Helps us as readers and listeners just not feel safe anywhere. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
I was gonna try to get a good night's sleep tonight. We'll be struggle busing whenever you drop me off out of the bus.
Yeah, exactly. And also, just to add insult to injury here, and add more fuel to the fire and whatever other metaphors I can come up with, the sensors that they're swinging around with the smoke coming out of them, the metal from the sensors, mined out of that mountain. Everything about that scene where they're chained up to the stones in the room, and the bowls and the sensors and everything in that scene is coming from that mountain, and it is imbued with that corruption.
You heard it here first, folks. The metal in your car was mined from that mountain. Get out now. You are not safe.
Yeah, so the van actually did eat you in this case.
And you have been corrupted.
Yeah. And you know what? Then maybe you'll be starting to spout some cool prophecy here soon or something like that, right?
If you're dead, you have to tell me.
Blink twice if you're dead. Oh, crap, this is a radio show. We can't see if you're blinking, Justin. Run and hide. And to kind of bring it all together, the puzzles and prophecy and stuff like that comes out of it, it kind of matches in similar nature to the whole thing that happens in Numbers with Carver Wallace. I think we mentioned that in episode 1. Mm-hmm. If not, we're recording these in weird orders based off of guest availability, listeners. So maybe I'm spoiling even Behind the Mortis right now. This place is full of spoilers. But in episode... Deep lore. Exactly. But in episode 3, Numbers of the Four Corners series, Carver Wallace talks about how he's like listening in and he's hearing this like radio broadcast. He's like, what is going on? What's going on with this thing? Where is everybody on this like almost dead world? and this dude comes on the television, and he's like a news anchor, and he's just talking and having like a broadcast about like, oh no, apocalyptic things are happening. He's very strangely calm, right? And then it cuts off to snow, and it comes back to like from the static, and he's just like, praise she who sets the cloth in motion, praise the ever defiant will of the deep one. And like it continues going, and it's the same exact kind of thing. What's going here, it's like prepping you, hey, these are things that I'm promising you listeners that will be hit in these stories. Like, these are the hints. Find the thread and pull on it, because it is so fun.
Oh, yes, for sure. Pull the thread.
Yes,
do
please.
it. You know you want to.
Yes. You'll find a van at the end of it with Justin in there tied up.
All right, boys. Listen, I didn't bring my passport with me, so before you cross country lines, do you think you can drop me off here?
Yes. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to kick you out here. And we couldn't have done this episode without you. You definitely brought your own flair to it. Really appreciate you stopping by for it. I mean, getting kidnapped for it.
And so just a reminder, our show is listener supported through our Patreon. And as a thank you, our supporters can access our new exclusive storyline with episodes coming out every month, Four Corners, like Devin just mentioned, where the Numbers episode exists, following Carver Wallace in his exploits and adventures across not just the globe, but maybe a little something else too. With that, we, of course, would like to thank our supporters like Serial Designation O, Hecamit, Birdie, Celia, Houdini Bob, and Trina.
Yes, and also, if you want to be a guest on the show, we are pulling people in and casting from our Discord community, so definitely click on that link down in the show notes in the description. Follow it and join the Discord community. Let us know. We'll talk about it there. We're very active, and we're hoping to get more and more people to help Justin not be the only one get in the van on the show. Come on and get to talk about kind of the shows and episodes you like the best.
Save me, Houdini Bob.
All right, well, thanks for getting Behind the Mortis with us.
Don't get lost in the dark.
There you go.